All right, let's talk about ISA 210. Now, you can think of it as the official rule book for getting an audit started off on the right foot. It's all about making sure everyone, the auditor and the client, is on the exact same page before any work begins. So, let's jump right in. Seriously, think about it. Would you ever build a house without a detailed blueprint? One that you and the builder have both agreed on before a single brick is laid? No way, right? Well, an audit is exactly the same. ISA 210 is that blueprint. It makes sure that both sides agree on the scope, who's responsible for what, and what the final goal is, long before the real work starts. So in this explainer, we're going to walk through 5 key areas. We'll start with why these formal agreements are so important in the first place. Then we'll get into the auditor's pre-flight checklist, how to get everything down in writing, what happens with repeat clients, and finally, how to deal with those tricky last-minute changes to the plan. Okay, first up, why does the standard even exist? Well, at its core, ISA 210 is all about preventing misunderstandings and, well, chaos. It's designed to make sure an auditor only takes on a job when the fundamental groundwork for that audit is solid and agreed upon. This protects everyone involved, the auditor from unclear expectations, and the client from being surprised about what the audit actually delivers. It's all about building that solid foundation from day one. And this really is the heart of it. The entire point is to avoid any confusion down the road. I mean, think about it. What exactly is the auditor supposed to be checking? What information does the company need to hand over? Who's responsible for which piece of the puzzle? Getting all of this crystal clear from the get-go is absolutely everything. All right, let's get practical. Before an auditor can even say yes to a job, they have to run a few checks. They need to see if the basic preconditions for an audit are actually in place. You can think of it like that site survey before construction begins. You got to check if the ground is even suitable to build on, right? And the official guidelines lay out a really simple 2-part test for these preconditions. First, is the company using a legit set of accounting rules, something like IFRS? And second, this is key. Does management actually agree to their fundamental responsibilities in this whole process? You need a yes to both. So here's the process in 2 steps. First, the auditor checks that the accounting framework is acceptable. Then, they get a clear, explicit agreement from management that they get it, that they understand their role. This is so important because it establishes that an audit is a team sport. It's a collaboration, not just something an auditor does to a company. And what exactly does management have to agree to? Well, here it is. They have to take ownership for preparing the financial statements and for having the right internal controls. And, just as crucial, they have to promise to give the auditor total access to all the information and all the people they need to do the job right. No secrets, no locked doors, no exceptions. Okay, so once those preconditions are met and everybody's on the same page, it's time to make it official. It's time to actually draw up that blueprint we've been talking about, and that's called the audit engagement letter. And the rules here are crystal clear. A verbal agreement or a handshake just isn't going to cut it. The terms must be put down in writing. This letter is now the single source of truth for the entire audit. If there's ever a question, this is where you look. And that letter can't just be a quick note. No, it has to have these 5 key things. It's got to cover the objective and scope of the audit, lay out the responsibilities for both the auditor and management, identify the accounting rules being used, and even describe what the final report is going to look like. It leaves no room for doubt. So what about clients you've worked with for years? This is a common question. If you're auditing the same company year after year, do you really have to draw up a whole new engagement letter every single time? Well, ISA 210 says, not necessarily. But, and this is a big but, the guidelines give us a clear checklist of triggers that tell you when you do need to revise the terms. So if there's been a big change in management, if the business itself has changed in a major way, or if the rules of the game have changed, like a new law or accounting standard, then yeah, it's definitely time to dust off that blueprint and update it. And finally, let's talk about what happens when a client wants to change the blueprint halfway through the project. This is probably one of the trickiest situations an auditor can face. This is the classic example. The auditor is deep in the trenches, doing their work, and suddenly management comes and asks to downgrade the job from a full, detailed audit to something less rigorous, like a simple review. The first and most important question the auditor has to ask is, why? Now, the auditor's job here is to figure out if that why is reasonable. A genuine change in the company's circumstances, that could be reasonable. But an unreasonable request is a massive red flag. For instance, if the client wants to change things because they know the auditor has found something wrong and they're just trying to avoid a bad audit opinion, well, that is absolutely not okay. And if that justification just isn't reasonable, the auditor can't just go along with it. The guidelines lay out a very clear, very strict path. First, they have to insist on finishing the audit they were hired to do. If management says no, the auditor should try to withdraw from the job. And if for some legal reason they can't even withdraw, they have to issue something called a disclaimer of opinion, which basically tells the world, hey, we were blocked from doing our job properly. So to wrap it all up, ISA 210 isn't just about paperwork or red tape. It's the essential blueprint that guarantees a strong, clear, and professional foundation for every single audit. It's all about creating that mutual understanding and building the trust you need for the whole process to actually work. So I'll leave you with this to think about. We've talked a lot about the rules and what's required, but beyond all that, how does the simple act of creating this clear, agreed-upon plan, this blueprint, actually help build a better, more collaborative, and more trusting relationship between a company and its auditors? Something to chew on? Thanks for watching.